you, Jim.
Thank you. Thanks, Kevin. Thank you, Jim, for a very enlightening and educational report and for all your hard work on working on this project. Are there questions or comments from the trustees? Neil?
Yeah, I have a few questions. As I look at the goals and the plan, and I should give a comment to sort of set this up by saying that I think this is a very professional document that Kevin and the entire team here should be proud of what was produced. I think it was an open process that sets a new high standard in terms of how things like this can be done. I did participate in a number of the meetings that are mentioned in the materials, and I think that it was a process where the various planners came in, and it was just very open dialogue, and really people were able to understand what the assumptions were, where this thing is headed, that kind of thing. And I think the final document presents the goals in a way that we can understand them, and the charts make sense, and we can all kind of get a handle on what we're talking about here. And that's not an easy thing to do, considering this is very complex stuff with lots of variables. The load growth analysis, we could argue about that for hours. Who knows what the load growth is going to be? There's a process in which they came up with the numbers they came up with. These are tricky variables to predict with a lot of unknowns. With that said, though, I'm still kind of sort of stuck on the two goals in terms of the renewable and the efficiency goals 4 and 5, or 3 and 4, I should say. Goals 3 and 4. The language that's used, for example, on pages 24 and then again in 42 for efficiency, it talks about in recognition of the goal of a 15% efficiency, 15% reduction in demand side as a result of improved efficiency. It doesn't actually say that we're going to meet that goal. It makes reference to in recognition of, and in the renewables for goal 4, it talks about the current plan being consistent with. It uses the term consistent with on page 24 and again on page 44. And so, when we look at the resolution that we're being asked to vote on, it on the first page of the resolution, when you get to the last paragraph at the bottom of the page, the first bullet is 1, meet the reliability requirements. So what we're saying unequivocally is that this plan will meet the reliability requirements. However, when we use the language as it relates to 45 by 15 in the next whereas clause, we say the plan is consistent with and supports. We don't say it'll meet the 45 by 15. And again, I want to put this in the best possible frame. I don't mean this as as any kind of personal critique or whatever. I don't think it's a sleight of hand. I think it's probably that these are challenging goals to meet. But nonetheless, as a matter of principle, it's a little tough for me to see how we could adopt a plan that does not, on its face, meet the key goal when it relates to both efficiency and renewables. And if we look at the charts for charts 22 and 23 on pages 43 and 45, or Exhibit 22, Exhibit 23, but they're charts basically. Both of them show a target line, which I understand to be the goal, and then they show what we're going to achieve in terms of the bars if the current plan is implemented, and there's a big gap between the two. So to me, it's hard to reconcile that we're adopting a plan that doesn't actually meet the goal of 45 by 15, or at least we're being asked to adopt that plan. So I don't know, that's in the form of a question. Shouldn't the plan actually meet the 45 by 15 goal, or at least set out a very clear strategy that would get us there, and then explain why it is that is, perhaps the argument is that's too expensive, but as was pointed out in the operations report, as we sit here in the month of January, efficiency is $40, and that's the cheapest item in that operations report, if I'm understanding that. It's new to me to read these operations reports, but I understand that last page. And we've always heard, whether it was the McKinsey report efficiency is our greatest opportunity to do things in the most cost-effective ways, invest in efficiency. So should we be expanding the Efficiency Long Island program even more than we're doing? Should we be speeding it up even more in order to meet the actual 45 by 15 goals?
All good points, good questions, Neil. And the answer to your final question is, possibly we could. But I think all the trustees should be aware of a couple of things, and it sort of relates to the points that John Fabio was making before. The words were deliberate. There's no mistake there. They are. It was worded that way for a reason. And when it comes to reliability, we have a statutory mandate, and in our statute, we're directed to provide for reliable service on Long Island. And our customers suffer from the second or third highest rates in the nation, but one thing they have is one of the best service utilities in the country. When it comes to the renewable programs and our energy efficiency programs, we are doing more than most utilities in the country, certainly in the state of New York. In terms of our Efficiency Long Island program, it is the most ambitious for any public utility in the country. And nobody has demonstrated that it works yet. And we are, Teddy Roosevelt said, walk slowly, carry a big stick. And it's what we're trying to do. People should realize, and we're not trying to hide it, that this plan, as stated, does not meet 45 by 15. It's aspirational. We're not legally required to do that. We're trying to. But this board has committed $1 billion to ELI, Efficiency Long Island. It's a 10-year program, $1 billion. If we were going to state the goal, as Neil suggested it, we're talking $2.5 billion for efficiency. That's what we've estimated it to be. And while we may, as we demonstrate success in Efficiency Long Island, that it's working and we're seeing good results in terms of megawatt reductions, and as our resource needs change in the future, and as we go out planning for 2024 and beyond, we may say this efficiency is indeed working. Let's ratchet it up. Let's not build that next fossil fuel plant on Long Island. Let's redouble our efforts in efficiency, and we may get there then. We're not there now. And I think it's too early to do that now, because we also got to weigh those goals with goal number 2 that some of the trustees indicated should be number 2, and that is our customers' ability to pay and the cost control. And so, again, I think the glass is half full, glass is half empty. We're doing more in areas of solar and efficiency, and it's maybe not enough to get us to where the state wants us to be, and so I think we need to view some of that as aspirational. It'd be nice to get there, but we're doing everything we can to move the ball forward, balancing those desires with our customers' ability to pay. So I hope I answered some of your questions on that.
Thanks, Kevin. Any other comments from?
Just a comment on the snapshot on the efficiency cost at this point in time. That's at our starting point of this program, and I say starting point with an asterisk because we've clearly been doing an efficiency program for several years. But as we go into that program, we get to a point of diminishing returns for the cost. So the last several megawatts will be a lot more expensive than they are right now today. So one of the problems we struggle with is, as Kevin pointed out, the effectiveness of this program. We have to monitor the cost per megawatt hour as we go on, and nobody can tell us, and we have no experience of where that diminishing returns point comes. So we have to watch that very carefully as we go on. So you cannot extrapolate the cost today to